and welcome back to Baked by Finn. My name's Finn and today I'm going to be showing you the first part of this little sort of series I'm going to start on how to make one cake. Now this is going to be one of my big layer cakes that you may have seen over on my Instagram, but I thought instead of me doing a huge video of it being like a 20-minute long video of me going through it from start to finish, I was just going to break it down a little bit so then it might be easy for people to learn from, or maybe you can just select the bits that you want to know how to do. So as I said before, there's going to be 3 parts this little mini series. The first part is going to be this one, and it's going to be how to crumb coat a cake. The second one is going to be how to do the final coat of a cake and get it looking nice and sharp on the edges. And the third one is going to be how to put a drip on a cake, which I know a few of you have been asking me for, and I have been putting it off for a while. So I'll get on to the video now and show you how to crumb coat a cake. Now the cake that I've got in my freezer has actually already been stacked. And I thought I wouldn't include that in the process because then it'd just make the video a bit longer, and also because you've probably seen me do that in loads of other videos, like my Eiffel Tower cake, which I'll put here, and my fault line cake, which was actually over a year ago now, which is, wow, where's that time gone? So as if by magic, I have my stacked cakes here with buttercream in between. Just in case you wanted to know, this is an Oreo buttercream and chocolate ganache, and then Kinder Bueno filling with more chocolate ganache. And this is just going to be coated in normal American buttercream. I don't have a recipe for this, but I will put a video of them showing you how to make it, but it is very simple, and I'll just put the recipe in the description below. If you want to do this with Italian meringue buttercream, I have a great video which I'll also put up here, and yeah, just check that out because I do normally do this with Italian meringue buttercream, but switching things up a bit today. So my big bowl of buttercream. So what I like to do first is put a few scoops of buttercream on top of the cake, and then what I like to do is spread it out on the top and then slowly work it down the sides of the cake. And I've just realised you can't do any of that without an offset palette knife, so I need to get one of them. I've got a palette knife now. So as I said before, we're just going to work this down to the side of the cakes. Now the consistency of your buttercream varies on what you prefer working with. I just tend to leave mine the same as I filled it with. If you didn't have time to sort of freeze your cake so it was stable like this, I suppose you could always crumb coat it with a buttercream that's a bit looser, but not too loose, otherwise it just won't be thick enough to coat the sides of the cake. So once you've sort of spread it across the top of the cake, you'll get this sort of overhang here, and because the buttercream I'm using, it's not that runny, so it won't just sort of fall down, it'll just sort of hold its shape, which is a bit weird. But so then when I've got a load of buttercream on my palette knife, I just sort of push it down the side of the top layer, because if we get a load of crumbs in this, it doesn't matter really, because that's why it's the crumb coat. So then once we've got this lip around the top, hold your palette knife like that and just start to wiggle it a bit. I can't see it that well from over there, but just start to wiggle it a bit just to spread it out and push it down the sort of the first layer of cake. And then that is just using up the rest of the buttercream that was on the top. So literally every time you do this, you'll end up with more lips and edges, literally every time you do it. And that is something that we can do to get rid of later, just by putting it in the fridge and then either swiping it back or just cutting it off. But then again, that isn't that important for a crumb coat, so maybe you won't need to go that far. So get another big scoop of buttercream, and then I like to just press it along the side of the cake, and then from there start to wiggle it and move it about and get it in all of the sort of gaps that we've got here. See that where we've filled it and the filling's not gone right to the edge, which I don't mind because it's not really that important, but if you wanted to pipe it round the edge and get it exactly, you could do that as well. And just start to work that into all of the gaps of the cake, and every time you have done it and you've gone and filled in more gaps, get a little bit more buttercream and just keep doing the same thing until it's all coated like this. And if you was doing a semi-naked cake as well, you could just leave it at this stage and maybe just put some flowers or something, or maybe just decorate the top so it looks not so flat. So once you've done sort of main areas of the cake, then and you just want to get sort of little gaps, then just scoop a little bit with your palette knife and then just push it right into where you've got any gaps, and that'll just sort of make it a little bit quicker and you won't be using as much buttercream for the crumb coat. So at the bottom you might notice that you're obviously going to get more big gaps. So we're just going to do exactly what we did for where we had the gaps where the filling was, and just apply a little bit more buttercream and then just smooth it out. With this time, just make sure the base of your palette knife is pressed up right against the bottom of the cake board and just scrape. So we are going to need a scraper. This is just like a dough scrape that you can get from Lakeland, but you can also get some like plastic ones that are meant for cakes and also metal ones. I do have those, but they are being washed. So with the scraper, we're going to hold it completely vertical to the cake and then just start to turn the cake around and apply a little bit of pressure to this. Not loads because you don't want to push the cake over, but you can be a little bit more rough with the crumb coat because it's not the final coat where you don't want sort of any lines or imperfections in it, because I don't want it to sound really bad, but this can look a little bit scruffy and it doesn't have to be perfect because this is just sort of the foundation for what we're going to build on. So keep scraping, and then you'll notice it will look very rough, and you can keep going over that and smoothing it, but then again I wouldn't really bother with that unless you're doing sort of a semi-naked cake where you can see the layers of cake, because this is just going to get completely covered up by a whole new layer of buttercream, so it'd be a bit of a waste of time and buttercream doing that. So I'm going to get another little bowl now just to put all of this sort of swiped off buttercream on, and then if you wanted to, that's what you could use, sort of fill in any big air bubbles that might be bothering you. And yeah, so I'm just going to keep scraping this for a bit and swiping off the excess. Now you will be left with this bit at the top. Now, as I said before, there are two things you can either do to get rid of this. One would be the swipe, which you see me do a lot in my videos, or get a knife and sort of run it along the cake, which you can do once the cake is cold. Oh, apparently this, I just thought it would do it now, but which is fine because I prefer both methods. It is easy for the crumb coat just swiping it, but if you was leaving it like this, I would put it in the freezer for a bit and then get a hot knife and then just run it along, and that will sort of leave you with a much sharper edge, which I will actually do on the last final coat. However, again, that isn't really important if you're having a drip. And I need to change my battery. One battery change later and I'm back. So as I was saying before, with this one I'm just going to swipe it because it's just a crumb coat. So once you have scraped it in, you will get a little bit of like buttercream that will have been pushed down. It will look a little bit raggedy. But then you can just scrape that up again, and if you want you can just keep going over it. That is what I tend to do, but you don't need to. So I don't know if I mentioned before the importance of doing a crumb coat on a cake, and the importance of doing a crumb coat is basically it stops all of the crumbs from getting into your final layer of buttercream, so it makes your cake look a lot neater, and it's also a lot easier to work on once you've got the final coat of buttercream on. And some people don't do a crumb coat, which honestly I have no idea how they manage to do that, because I know if I ever did a cake without crumb coating it would not go well for me. So that is the crumb coat done now, and obviously this has literally took me minutes to do. It's super quick, super easy, but I just thought I would share this in case there was anyone wondering sort of why you'd need a crumb coat or anything to do like that. And yeah, this is the end of the video now. Make sure to stay tuned for part 2 and 3 of this, little series that I'm doing. And yeah, see you next time. Bye!